The Israeli military is facing widespread condemnation after killing at least 15 people, including 10 children, who were queuing for food. The Israel Defense Forces said the strike on Thursday in Deir al-Balah was targeting a militant. It said it regrets any harm to civilians. Our correspondent Nick Beek has this latest report on the aftermath of the attack, a warning that there are distressing images from the outset.
In Gaza, a little boy guards his sister's body, heaped among the victims of an Israeli strike. No dignity in death here. The Israelis said they targeted a Hamas fighter. But you can see, just meters away, a group of women and children who were waiting for aid. 10 children were among those killed. Bodies scattered all along the street. Among the victims, 9-year-old Omar and his brother Amir, just 5. Today, our team in Gaza found their grieving family. Memories of the boys on their phones, but little else.
Every day they talk about a ceasefire, but where is it? They had dreams just like any other child in the world. If you gave them a small toy, they'd be so happy. They were just kids, children.
The United Nations says it has deep concerns about the number of civilians being killed trying to get aid, particularly at sites run by the new US-Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF.
This is nearly 800 people who have been killed while trying to access aid. Mostly the injuries are gunshot injuries.
The Israeli army denies its soldiers deliberately shoot at people receiving aid. It says it's learned lessons after reviewing recent incidents. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation accused the UN of using false and misleading statistics. At Gaza's largest functioning hospital, doctors are now warning of an imminent disaster because of a critical shortage of fuel. Corpses can't be buried because Israeli troops are operating in the nearby cemetery. And there's no sign of a ceasefire. For many, it's too late anyway. Nick Beek, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza stopped admitting patients Friday amid a fuel crisis and a nearby Israeli ground offensive. My colleague Katrina Perry has been speaking with Christos Georgalis, a surgeon who worked at Nasser Hospital and remains in contact with colleagues there.
You are still in touch with your colleagues at the Nasser Hospital. What have they told you about the current situation there?
Yes, I was actually talking with them just yesterday, and the situation has deteriorated significantly over the last month and a half. I left Nasser on the 21st of May. It's now the 11th of July. So over the last month, they have lost a lot of weight because there is no aid that is coming to the doctors, to the people to the healthcare staff in Nasser Hospital. And also the hospital itself is under siege. What they told me is that all the area around Nasser Hospital has been declared a military zone, so it had to be evacuated. My colleagues themselves, they're all staying now in Al-Mawasi camp. They had to leave their houses in Khan Yunis. But the IDF tanks are just 500 meters from the hospital, and they are worried that any time now, the IDF may attack the hospital. And you know, this happened a year and a half ago, and there are the mass graves outside the hospital were filled with patients and doctors. So as you understand, they are quite wary of a repeat of the same situation. However, they're still in their places, and no one has left their jobs. Everyone is still working, and they are trying to prepare themselves for the worst.
Is it an option to evacuate that hospital, given the sick patients, given that it is the only functioning hospital left in the area?
Exactly. No, I mean, obviously there is no such option. I'm Greek and we have Hippocrates, and Hippocrates' oath precludes, makes certain that you have to, above all, think of the welfare, of the good of your patients. So for a doctor to abandon his or her patients would be the ultimate betrayal of his profession. So none of my colleagues is thinking of leaving the hospitals. They're all prepared to stay there, whatever that means. Of course, they know that it's the last fully functioning hospital in the whole of Gaza Strip. So no, I'm sure they told me actually, and I know that I know in them that they will stay there. They're not prepared to leave.
Given the IDF presence so close to the hospital as you've described there, they've had to stop receiving injured people and patients at this moment. What does that mean now for the people in Gaza?
It means basically that the patients that are targeted, and they told me about this, we discussed about this, that a lot of their patients are children, they are young patients that have been targeted while trying to get aid at the so-called humanitarian aid centers, which is anything but humanitarian. There are tens of casualties every day that are coming from these centers. And most of them cannot even reach the hospital, so they may have to die or they try to get care somewhere else. But the situation is really tragic. And they're telling me themselves, the doctors, that they have to choose between dying from hunger or dying while trying to get aid at the humanitarian centers. And having said that, keep in mind that there are only 3 of them in the whole of Gaza Strip, which means that for the vulnerable parts of the population, they may have to walk for 10 or 15 kilometers, which is impossible, of course, for someone who's very young, for a child, or for an elderly person.